logically try to understand, maybe come to a conclusion, maybe that's why Krishna has used idam sharira. Let's look at Sukshma Sharira. As I told you, Sukshma Sharira has two components. One is Bhakya Karanam, another is Antakaranam. The Bhakya Karanam are Pancha Pranas, Pancha Karmendriyani and Pancha Jnanendriyani. The Antakarana are these. Now, there is something interesting we go through every day in our life. What happens is, we are in Jagrat. When we are in Jagrat, the Sukshma Sharira is fully active. The Sukshma Sharira is fully active. The I-ness is at its best. It's also active. Moment you go to dream sleep. Actually, I recently read one more article which says, when you sleep, the pranas, in deep sleep, the pranas are almost stopped or reduced or some very feebly or whatever. So which means that will also go. That's the point I was trying to make. No, in dream sleep, what happens is your body consciousness is gone. You are no longer body. That's the first thing. That's why in sleep, moment you get into sleep, dream and deep sleep that has come. Moment you get into sleep, you have lost many of your, first you have lost your physical body. What lives with you is only the Sukshma Sharira. That's why in dream, only your mind will work. But with the mind, what you can do is you can enable all the Sthula Sharira components. For example, and it does something which science can never explain. For example, out of my mind, I will create myself. I will put me as the observer in the dream. I will put me as the observer. I will recreate this class. I will get these 15, 20 people in front of me. Everything will happen in dream. I don't know where is the raw material for this. And it is very real until you actually broke up. That's why some people out of fear they get up, their forehead is all wet. That shows there was a kind of reality there. It was not a hypothetical idea. I have gone through it. So I have done something which is a Mayaja. I have used some padartha out of which I created myself. I created the 20 of you. I created this live stream equipment which will stop, all these will come in my dream. I will create the table and chair. I will create a conversation which I will talk on your behalf, I will talk on my behalf, everything will happen. I will run, so my indriyas will work. I hear what you say. I have a sensation of something. I listen to everything happens in dream. But your body is completely dead. So in Sukshma Sharira is there in the dream. So far so good. Now let's go to deep sleep. Dream is also over. We all have, every day God has created at least 3-4 hours of deep sleep for us. It's the greatest thing that has happened to us. These are all about Anugraha, these are all design. The design is such a master design, nobody can replicate the design. At best you can copy. Every day we will sleep 3-4 hours, which is called deep sleep. And what happens in these 3-4 hours? You completely recharge yourself. So what does that mean? That means your aham, actually let us first understand what happens in deep sleep. Your body is no longer there, which is already gone in dream itself. Body is not there. Now your manas, buddhi, chitta, ahankara, everything is gone in deep sleep. Deep sleep is pitch dark for us. Nothing. We think nothing, but we get up and say, I had a good sleep. We say in past tense. Now my question is, your buddhi is not working, your chitta is not working, your ahankara is not working. We'll come to about this a little later. Your ego is not working. That's why a pauper and the samrat of the country can perfectly, without no discomfort, can have deep sleep. Once you get up, only problems start. You say, who is this man? Why is he sleeping near me? A samrat of a country can be put on a deep sleep peacefully in a slum. Nothing will happen. Because in deep sleep, you have lost everything. Ahankara is gone, chitta is gone, buddhi is gone, manas is gone, all karmendriyas, jnanendriyas, everything is gone. And yet you have the audacity to get up and say, I slept very well. Where is this I? What is the source for this I? Definitely the source is none of this. Because none of them were there. So that way you can dismiss the entire Sukshma Sharira. Every day God has given us a 4-hour experiment for dismissing Sukshma Sharira. That is what has happened. How do you see without your eyes in a dream? In fact, how do you actually, there is no light, no? There is no light. Actually, only in dream you don't need hourglasses. Because there is a reason. The reason is you are not using this physical entity. When you use the physical entity, you have to put another glass in front of it. In dream, you are seeing without a glass. How is it happening? Where is it being supplied? In dream, you actually watched a floodlight tournament. Where is the floodlight? You are actually sleeping in a room in which you have switched off everything. Where is the floodlight coming from? So there is something beyond all this, which is actually supplying. So you need a torch to see yourself in a pitch dark environment. For you, you don't need. If you want to see if there is somebody else, only then you need a light. For you, we are all Swayam Prakashas. We are all Swayam Prakashas. Nobody needs a light to see if I am there. In an absolute pitch dark environment, I don't need a light to see whether I am there. Because I am Swayam Prakasha. My Prajnana is what I am. So that time you should understand the I is none of these faculties. None of these Sukshma Shariras or Stula Sharira. Because when all of them are not there, there is still an I. You are having that awareness. Aham Prajna is there. So therefore, Sukshma Sharira is not I. Because if Sukshma Sharira is I and Sukshma Sharira is gone, I must also go. It's not going in deep sleep. Nothing during deep sleep. You wake up and say, I had a good sleep. Now, how did you say, I had a good sleep? You are not there. In fact, the very idea of a sound sleep, very definition of a sound sleep is when people make a lot of sound, you will not get up. That is called sound sleep. Any amount of sound you make, if I don't get up, that means I am in sound sleep. Because all my antakaranas, everything is switched off. Still you had the audacity to get up and say, I had a good sleep. Where is this I coming from? So where are you going to now attach your I to? Are you going to attach to Sukshma Sharira? If you attach, you are in a logical problem to explain deep sleep. You will fall flat. You cannot explain deep sleep. Right? So that is what it is. How to account for this illogical conclusion? It is very illogical. Because my mind was not working, my ahankar was not working, my chitta was not working, none of my indriyas are working, I was not even aware. Time, space, everything is gone. Time is gone, space is gone, all entities which I am aware of are gone. That state is called deep sleep. Yet you wake up from the deep sleep and say, I had a very good sleep. And such a sleep energizes you. What does it mean? When you can be bereft of your ahankar and all your kshetra, you will be nothing but a bundle of energy. That is what it is actually conveying. Today we are doing it only by going into deep sleep. So in deep sleep, we have anubhava, but we don't have awareness. You may ask them, we are already Brahmajnani, we are not. Because in deep sleep, we have anubhava, but we don't have awareness. That's why we recount it in past tense. Whereas if you have anubhava and awareness together, that is samadhi. It's not sleep. In the waking state, you will shed all your ego, shed your ahankara, antakarana, vakyakarana, kshetra will be dismissed off. What remains is kshetrajna. That will be nothing but bundle of energy, which is what deep sleep is telling me. If I can wake up, in fact, when people are bored, when people are tired, when people have nothing else to do, the best thing we do is go for sleep. As I was hearing, one of the speakers, this is the only thing which will not bore us. In fact, if you are boring, you can go into this. Day after day after day after day after day until you die and you come back with energy. Look at this wonder called deep sleep. This wonder called deep sleep tells you are not a Sthula Sharira, you are not a Sukshma Sharira. Dismiss everything. We are not able to do it when we are in Jagrat. We are not able to do it even when we are in dream. Because Ahankara is there in dream, I is there. I am running, I am asking somebody, I am talking to someone, the I is there. In deep sleep, the I is also gone. Nothing was there.
Video is working, the audio is not working.
it's on only. What's happening? Anyway, mobile quality audio is not coming or still not coming? Whatever I am talking? Oh, they are saying that. So some of them may have an issue. Sometimes they say it's on. Actually, the mic is on. It's not a problem.
So, it's working. Yeah, now.
Huh?
It's working.
Okay. So, deep sleep, if we reflect on this activity which God has given us, if we think about it very deeply, very objectively, repeatedly, we can begin to understand the I is not something which is attached to the Sthula and the Sukshma. Question is, what is this then? That is a vichara that's what Ramana Maharishi says, find out who am I. So I want to take the first sentence in Chatussutri. Chatussutri is a famous Adi Shankara Bhagavad-pada's introduction to Brahma Sutra Bhashya. He wrote, it's a very celebrated piece, lots of people are, it's a very, very important thing. It starts like this first sentence. It says, Yushmad Asmad Pratyaya Gocharayoho Vishaya Vishayinoho Tama Prakashavat Viruddha Bhavayoho. It goes long sentence, I just stopped here. He introduces a concept called Asmad Pratyaya and Yushmad Pratyaya. Pratyaya Gochara is a technical word. See, Gata Pratyaya means all attributes related to what is called part. That's called Gata Pratyaya. Gochara is our, vision or understanding, thinking along the lines of something. So what he is saying here, there is something called Yushmat Pratyaya Gochara. Our perspective, all that collective understanding of what is called you. Yushmat is you. Asmad is I. So he says, there is a collective understanding and perspective related to the term you. Similarly, there is another term called I and what it means. If you take these two, he says these two are like the difference between light and darkness. Tama prakashavat, viruddha bhavaha. They are inherently in conflict. Fundamentally, they are in conflict. He says all that you can call it as you. Put this whole gamut of things which can be classified as you. And then put all those in the which you can call it as I. Just now I said I am not a Sukshma Sharira, I am not a Sthula Sharira. So you have to now to put all of them into you only. Because it is not part of I. Just now I took pains to explain it. If Sukshma Sharira and Sthula Sharira is not part of I, it should be part of you. Something other than I. That is what he is coming to. So there is something called I, whatever you can connect it as I. There is something which you can connect it as you. He says these two are fundamentally in conflict like darkness and light. See, this example of darkness and light is very, very important. Because light and darkness can never coexist. See, sometimes conflicts can coexist. But light and darkness cannot coexist. If light is there, where is darkness? If there is darkness, where is light? So what he is saying is that when I exist, you will never exist. What you call it as you will never exist. When you exist, you will fail to see I. In other words, if I attribute myself to the Sharira, which is actually not I, but I foolishly attach myself, I am attaching myself to what is supposedly you, then I will not see the I. Because darkness and light cannot coexist at the same time. That much ideas are coming out of it. So the entire set of things referring to you and those referring to I, which pertains corresponding to the consumed, Vishaya and Vishayini. So what he says is, you is what is being consumed and I is the consumer. The I consumes, everything is nothing but consumed. So he says, you belongs to consumed, I belongs to consumer, are the one who is consuming, and these two are eternally in conflict like darkness and light. I will translate it to our discussion. I will map it to our discussion. What he is saying. Without tapas, this is very difficult for me to explain otherwise. So what he is saying is, the Sthula Sharira, the Sukshma Sharira, all these are Sukshma Sharira. Buddhi, Manas, Chitta, Ahankara, Karmendriya, Jnanendriya, all these are Antak, these are Prana, Upana, Dhyana, Pancha Pranas, Pancha Karmendriyani, Pancha Jnanendriyani, all these are Sukshma. And there is a Sthula Sharira which are outward. Then there is the whole world outside. You are there, this building is there, this camera is there, these are all outside anyway, they are you. We don't have a problem calling them as you. We have a problem only calling this as you. He has put all these together and he call it as Yushmat Pratyaya, that is the Kshetram. There is something beyond all this which is energizing. That is called Asmat. That is the only I. Because just now I dismissed I cannot be this, I cannot be this. This we know, I cannot be the outside world, that I know. This is much easier. Only this requires some explanation. The Sthula Sharira and Sukshma Sharira requires some explanation. I know I am not the camera. I know I am not you. That you I understand. Now he is porting all these into you. This is also you now. This is also you. This is what this shloka is saying. This is what Krishna is actually introducing in this chapter. There is so all these are called kshetra. This is the field. That is the force. That's why all these are jada. That force only can energize this. Only when you energize this, you will see the outside world. Otherwise, where is the outside world? The whole thing will go for a putt. If that is not there, that is the electricity. And these are the gadgets. Right? Now, to answer partly your question, I have put it here. See the way, this is my understanding. This is my, whatever I have read, I am trying to put it. The way I have understood is, this Antakarana is actually doing all the work when we are in Jagrata and even dream also. It has 4 components. Manas, Buddhi, Chitta and Ahankara. Okay? Now, how does it work? We will take an example. Suppose you come and give me a Mysore Pak. So, from this outside world, work means you are dealing with the outside world, otherwise there is no work. So, let's say you came and gave me a Mysore Pak, one piece of Mysore Pak. How does it work? What happens is, first of all inputs come through what is called Jnanendriya. This is how we do Vyavahara. All inputs. You shout at me, that's also an input. You gave me one papat, that's also an input for me. You both were talking, I was trying to infer, that is also an input. So the inputs come through the Jnanendriyas. This is the signal coming in. So if you give me a Mysore Pak, moment I have it in my hand, the feel will tell me this is fresh or it is not. The Jnanendriya will tell me. The smell will tell me it's good, it's made of some high quality ghee or it is a refined oil or something. So all that will come. So, and how do you know it? That's where this is required. This is actually a database. Chitta is the database. So if your chitta is gone, you become mental. That's called mental. And otherwise the file allocation table is gone. So the data cannot be made sense of. So how did I know it is Mysore Pak? Because the moment I had it, this actually fetched the data from here. It knows. In fact, in Vedanta there are wonderful descriptions of this. You know, maybe another occasion I should talk about. How does a small child, these discussions are in Vedanta. Yes, child, the mother shows the child a cow. And there is that's a nati, a local cow. Next day it sees a Jersey cow and the child says Amma cow. How did it actually make it? Saw one sample. Because Janmantara, the vasanas, the bundles have nothing, they are all coming through what is called chitta. That's why these child prodigy are all part of that story actually. So, moment you give me Mysore Pak, then this is like a CEO in a way. It orders, fetch me the information. So, moment you see it, it matches it with this chitta, and then actually Buddhi actually resolves it. It fetches this idea from this database. This is like a kind of CPU processor. So it says this is actually Mysore Pak. It will also, it is ghee. How? Because the smell, everything is to be pattern matched. Somebody must do the pattern matching and provide the information. And Ahankara says, I actually am having it, I am eating it, I got it. So that I is supplied from here. Right? Now the question is, what do we do about it? Now, if you want to respond, so the manas will have now decide whether to eat or not. So all the information this fellow will give, Buddhi will give. Buddhi will say if you eat ghee, it is cholesterol. Buddhi will also say it is very sweet. Buddhi will also fetch the chitta and say you actually like sweet. So it is very neutral. It has no color. It will provide all the information. Pluses and minuses, everything will be provided, fetched from the database and it will provide. Now this fellow has to decide what to do. And it orders instruction, then Karmendriya start working, double it. So that is how the whole thing. Take another example, a beggar comes asking for alms. Now, this will first recognize it is a beggar, it also recognizes asking for alms. Now Buddhi will tell 100 things. Buddhi will say you can give him money, giving is good. If you give, he will come tomorrow, everything it will say. So it will provide all the inputs. It will say giving is a good habit. It says giving too much is he will come again. If you give anyway, it will come every day. Every information it will give. Somebody has to resolve it. So that's why in this context it is manas. Otherwise there is something called heart and there is something called manas and buddhi. There are three. We have to actually use the three to argue, but I will not go there now. But in other words, this is the one which is like sitting here. The question is whether should it be a CEO or a dispatch clerk. If it is a CEO, that person has one who is controlled by mind, is very inebriated. Because this does not have that Nitya Nitya, Viveka it does not have. Viveka is available here and doing good things, values are a part of heart. So heart calls the shot, that is one way. If manas calls the shot, if heart calls the shot, this fellow will become a dispatch clerk. If this calls the shot, this will become a CEO. It will give good advice, it will discard all the advice, it will do what it wants to do. Anyway, that is how the connections are. So the world of Vyavahara that we have, there is a stimulus and there is a response. That's how we deal with the outside world. And we do it, the response is always through Karmendriyani. That's why we shout at somebody, we hit at somebody. These are all work done from here. And the preparation for that is, I didn't like what you said. Or you talked ill of me, so let me shout back at you. So the stimulus comes from here. It is processed here. In order to process, you need some pattern recognition. You need a very neutral processing entity. You need somebody to claim ownership. I did it. So these four actually make that bundle. So if the decisions come from a Hridayasthana, this fellow will become a dispatch clerk. If it comes from Mana says, I will discard everybody, I will do it, those are people who are very emotional. They just dance to the tunes of their mind. They are very emotional. They are not, when you say rational, emotional, we are talking about these two, but there are certain other things also, which a little later I will. So, Adi Shankara says, this entire gamut is Kshetra. This you we understood. He has added two more layers to these Yushpat Pratyaya Gochara. He says, all these are part of it, is not, don't add it yourself. You have to distance from yourself. Deep sleep teaches us that. Deep sleep says, you discard all of them out of you, you are nothing but bundle of energy. That's why you wake up with enormous amount of energy. Best time to see the face is when you wake up after sleep. Prasannata, you will see. Why? Because we are touching that Purusha unencumbered, but we are not aware. But we have that Anubhava, not awareness. That is teaching us all these cannot be part of us, but we need enormous thinking and practice to get there. It's easy to talk, but that's what it is.
So soul is beyond this, is it?
That's the Purusha. I mean, soul is the English word. Now the soul is the energy. These are all Jada. Equivalent of the soul is the Atma. That Atma, so that's where all these will come. We'll see Prakriti, Purusha, we will see Kshetra, Kshetra, that part will get resolved a little bit. So he describes this in the next two. I already said all this, so I quickly go through this shloka. He says, what is the Kshetra? He explains that. He says, Mahabhutani Hankaro Buddhiravyaktameva cha Indriyani Dashaikam cha Panchachendriya Gocharaha Ichcha Dvesha Sukham Dukkam Sangatas Chetana Vritihi Yetat Kshetram Samasena Savikaram Udavritam. In a concise way, I will define Kshetra. Samasena. Right? Very concisely, I will define Kshetra. He says, what is Kshetra? He says, Mahabhuta, Panchabhutas. Mahabhutas, which is the outside world and all that. Mahabhutas, Ahankaraha, Buddhihi, Avyaktamevacha, the inside four. Right? Indriyani Dasha, you say, where is Manas? Manas is here. It says Indriyani Dashaikam. Dashaikam is 11. Dasha plus Eka. Why is he calling like that? Because Manas is a super Indriya. Without eye it can see in the dream. Without ear it will hear in the dream. So Manas is a super Indriya actually. That's why Indriyani Dashaikam. 10 plus 1. So Pancha Karmendriyas, Pancha Jnanendriyas, Manas, everything is included in this Indriyani Dashaikam. 11. Panchachendriya Gocharaha, Indriya Gocharaha. Gocharaha is where these Indriyas are going, which is the world outside. The Panchendriyas are going where? What is their raw material? Which is nothing but the outside world. Panchachendriya Gocharaha, right? Then Ichcha, Dukkam, Dvesha, all your feelings that comes out of the Manas processing all these, all of them. The fortitude, Dhriti, Sangataha, the collectiveness, the Chetana, the so-called conscious, activeness that you have, all of them are belonging to Kshetra. In other words, the figure I showed in the previous, he is actually defining it in a particular way. He is putting Mahabhuta, Bhuta, Ahankara is here. Mahabhutas are here, they are outside. Panchabhutas are outside. He starts from there, he puts all of them together and he says, Etat Kshetram Samasena, Diyate. That's what he is saying. Udavritam. Savikaram Udavritam. With all its modifications, I am telling, in whatever ways all these can modify, they are also part of the Kshetram. So the previous Dabhaya is being defined in these two shlokas. Then what he does is, so he has defined Kshetra. And he has said what is Kshetraja. Kshetrajnaha api mam vidhi sarva kshetreshu bharata. So that God particle you see in all Kshetra, understand that to be Kshetrajna. So he has now said what is a Kshetrajna which is in every Kshetra. He has told about the Kshetra also. Now that is the Jnaya and this is the Jnata with all these physical entities. Then we are talking about the Jnana, for which he introduces 20 beautiful values. In Shloka 7 to 11, it's 20 values. He starts with Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshanti, Rajavam, Acharya, Upasanam, Stairyam, Atmavigrahana, like that it starts. Beautifully 20 values. I've been telling when I was teaching this 2 years back, I very strongly recommended we must read Swami Dayananda Saraswati has written one book on this, called The Value of Values. Wonderful book. Just he has taken these 4 shlokas, written 150 pages. Wonderful. But I am going to pull only out of that a little bit. Since that book is there, I am not going to talk much. It's wonderful to read that book. Out of that, I will little bit talk about the 20 values which will take us to Atman Jnana. So that's the process. The Jnanam is being discussed through these 20 values. Before that, he has a very nice introduction to the notion of values. What is value? What is value? He has certain introduction to it, so I thought I will. There are very nice things he says. He says value is something which is held in esteem by an individual. That is called value. It's a simple definition. What do we value? What hold in esteem is called value. Very prized for me. That is called value. He says all ethical values are defined as dharma. It is actually a regard for a thing which I value the most. It's very prized for me. That is called a value. But then he says certain fundamental things about value which we should really reflect on. That's the greatness of that chapter he has written. I put 3 bullets which really tells us think about it. First of all, he says nobody can escape a value, but you can defy a value. Understand the difference between these two. Nobody can escape a value is very universal and it is a governing order. Ahimsa, Satyam is a value. You cannot escape, but you can defy. Which means you can violate it and defy. They are the sustainable principles for living. So there is no way you can escape. You can only defy. And he says what will happen? He says if you defy a value, he says you will put yourself in conflict. He says the whole idea of conflict starts there. Even the worst criminal has his conflict. He defies value at a certain time, but then it puts a certain conflict in him. So he says if you can't meet a value, he says by design inherently we all want to actually meet value. We want to follow values. That is our designed system is designed for it. But when we defy or escape, when we defy a value, he says you actually plant a seed of guilt. Everyone will go through it. Nobody can escape. That part you can never escape. That's what he says. Failure to meet a value puts one in conflict to oneself and it creates the seed of guilt. So the feeling guilty starts because you escaped, you defied a value. You thought you were escaping a value, you actually defied a value. Then he goes on to say that if a mind is filled with conflict, he says these are small things which will build. You can tell one lie, then a little bit later you tell, it's a small thing, nobody will notice, you tell the second lie. But he says all these will accumulate. In this Antaryami, in this Sakshi it will accumulate. He says nowhere it can go. He says a mind which is filled with guilt, he says will never receive knowledge. It's not possible. So the precondition for jnana is to live a life which is absolutely value bound. Moment we start violating the value, he says you will never, the mind cannot pick up the ultimate knowledge that you need to pick up. He raises it to that level. These are ideas which we have to in our own way understand and reflect. They are very good ideas which we need to in our own way take our own life examples and understand. It's very, very important. So he says knowledge will not take place. So these are the preamble for the jnana that he is going to talk. And another very interesting thing he says the best way to follow value, he says, is you should become your personal value. And if anything becomes a personal value, he says it is choiceless. He gives a wonderful example. He asks, just because you are hungry, how many of you will go and put your hand into a dustbin and somebody threw a packet of food and take and eat? Nobody will. You would rather die. Why? Because not to eat like that is your personal value. So he says you don't have to make choice. It is choiceless. You don't sit and think, should I take it and eat? Nobody will do it. Food is thrown in a garbage. You are hungry, will you go and eat the food? He says you will not, because it's a personal value for you. Some of the values we have personalized it. And so he says the evolution of an individual lies in your ability to personalize a lot of values so that it becomes choiceless. You have no conflict. You have no choice. You will do only that. You will not do a second thing. You will not think one kshana you won't think to do something else. He says that is the direction in which we will have to build our value system. He talks about personal values. Anything that becomes personal values is indeed choiceless. Choiceless meaning you will not create conflict. You will do only that. You don't even think, should I do something else? For many of us, we will not. That is the problem with Arjuna. In a way, support is, should I kill somebody? Because he had certain values which he didn't know how to handle it. Right? So, some of the things. Then he talks about another beautiful concept called half value. That's the best thing I found in this book. Look at the way he describes half values. All of us are nothing but bundle of half values. Look at what he's saying. I want everyone to be truthful. Tell me how many of you want to be cheated? How many of you wanted to be lied? Nobody will put up their hand. How many of you want to be violence unleashed on you? Nobody, even the criminal will not put up his hand. Correct? So, Satyam, Ahimsa, Paramo Dharma, that everybody, that's why it's called Paramo Dharma. Nobody on earth says, I want people to lie and cheat. People say, I want people to be truthful. So, on that part, nobody has any confusion. Then the starts with that
Still a
argument.
lot of cheating.
No, so we'll come. No, you don't want to get to be cheated. You are willing to cheat. That's called a half value. For you, no cheating. You get very hurt when you get cheated, but you don't have a problem cheating somebody. This is called half, is exactly what he's saying. So what he's saying is, I want everyone to be truthful to me, which is a personal value for me. There is no choice there. It's a choiceless value. I don't want anybody to unleash violence on me. I don't want anybody to cheat me and lie at me. And all that. It's called personal values. These are all personal values for us. Anybody in the world you ask, these are all personal values, choiceless. But then, the value of me being truthful. Value of me being truthful is not clear to me. It looks like. Sometimes I say, why should I be truthful? I can know. No, this is so illogical, no? You want, so same thing applies for him also, no? For her also. If you want not to be cheated, every individual in the world does not want to be cheated. That is so personal value I don't have a problem. This is called obligatory value. It is obligatory on my part not to cheat you. You can't do anything by cheating. It is obligatory on my part not to cheat you. It is obligatory on my part not to unleash violence on you. So that is the second. So now the value has two components. It looks like you can split value into two. One is called personal value, another is called obligatory value. And what is half value? I want personal value, but I will not practice obligatory value. Which means, I want everybody to be truthful to me, I will jolly well cheat. I don't have a problem. He says, moment an universal value is split into two like this, a half value will create conflict. He says, it's a matter of time. You may think you can get away. He says, it is never like that. If you split a universal value and say, for me something, for somebody something else, then everybody will start saying it will lead to chaos only, no? It doesn't require too much of rocket science to understand it. If everybody started thinking like that, it will be chaos. In fact, the good thing in the society, there are lots of people who don't have half values. There are a few people who have half values and they will pay the price for it. So we don't have to say, because he is practicing half value, let me also start practicing half value. Fortunately, many of us don't do it. That's why this world is sustaining. So he says half value, when universal value is split into two, he says that is a potential source for conflict. Because your antaryami will not take it. It will not be a silent spectator. Sakshi will not keep quiet. It will slowly build that conflict seed of guilt into you. You will become an ayukta. He says you will become an ayukta. Nasti bhukti ayuktasya, nacha ayuktasya bhavana, na abhavasya shanti, ashantasya kuta sukam. Sukam is what Krishna asked in chapter 2, some 64 sloka, something like that. Clearly he said, if you become ayukta, you will not, there is peace of mind for you. Swami Dayananda Saraswati says, if you practice half value, you will become ayukta. It's a matter of time. You will not be a composed person. You will be a very splintered personality. You will be a split personality. You know inside. You may not show it outside, but it really boils inside. Yes.
Normally, being in a society, being in a civilization, we will do what the society rewards us to do. And unfortunately, right from childhood, survival of fittest is something which is thrown on us. Now, if I want to promote this in my kids, then I'm teaching them that you should not have off values. It's okay if others cheat you. You should not cheat. You should be faithful. Now, somehow they always get, they are getting pressed by so many people in the society who want to walk on them, talk to them, go up. So when somebody is successful, they're very good, we promote it, we try to promote it, which is out of our control, which is where this half value is.
Yeah. So our question is because some people are giving feedback, they are not hearing the question, so let me put back the question in a samasa. The question is, in society we seem to unwittingly promote half value. If somebody, we look around and say if others are practicing half value, survival of the fittest, let me also practice. That is the kind of question that she raised. Honestly speaking, a vast majority of the society will be like that. Why? Because the vast majority of people will be very under-evolved. These are prescriptions to raise yourself to such a high level. So people will walk through that path. The time will come, we will actually value full values, which may create a certain disadvantage to us, but we have that much courage to take it and go forward. People like that. So it only shows that either we have lack of understanding, we have lack of conviction, all these are signs of the lack of evolution we have. You are right, it happens all the time. But there are people who at any cost say don't do it. They are far and few between. Evolved souls are far and few between. You don't get it in large numbers. There are no, cheaper the pie, that does not happen. So essentially the point is, this is a journey we have to make. We will be somewhere. Let's make that journey. So from the 100% being half value, if we become 99% being half value, I consider we have made phenomenal progress in evolving our personality. Let's take that stride. You are right, that's what happens. But that is where we are. We are saying, where do we go forward? It happens. But let's go forward and understand the larger principle. But they are very nice ideas to become more evolved as a self. Otherwise, the refinement never happens. It's all eating man and going. That is, chapters 14, 15, 16, you see some of these. Such things don't take us anywhere. In this chakra, we'll keep on, endless cycles will come and go. What we are saying is there a way we can find the trajectories for going up? These are the principles in that. Certainly.
The seed of guilt. For example, you have been knowingly or unknowingly from half values, and you are able to overcome after some time, and then the seed of guilt sometimes still continues, or does it?
No, the seed of guilt actually is a function of, if you are genuinely a priori exposed after the event has happened, if we have recognized that we practice half value and we make a conscious effort to reform, seed of guilt will go. Seed of guilt is when jolly well you think intelligently you are managing half values and split the values and hopefully managing it. But when we have recognized it and consciously taking a correction, seed of guilt will solve. Definitely it will not be there. And that will also minimize, I will not even say it will come, this half value practice will come to a grinding halt, but it will taper. These are a slow process, it will taper. And a time will come when it will become really, so the seed of guilt will not really grow, it will only taper. That's my sense. So he talks about 20 values. The first 9 values are here. Amanitvam, Adambitvam, Ahimsa, Kshantihi, Arjavam, Acharyopasanam, Shaucham, Stairyam, Atma Vinigraha. In fact, this first, the order in which these values are stunning. In our normal life, we have to start here first. Then he gets into deeper ideas. First set of things we have to develop is Amanitva and Adambitva. See, the Manitva, Mana and Apamana. Manitva is a desire for honor. We want us to be recognized. I will put a lot of good effort, but if you don't recognize it, I get very upset. That is called Manitva. Amanitva is to step out of what he is saying. There's a difference between these two. Let me take the next slide. So there is Amanitvam, which is trying to give up our desire to ask for honor. Dayananda Saraswati uses a very nice example. He says, jasmine will open up and it wants the whole world to say, thank you, you are really giving out such a nice word. He says, this is called Manitva. If you do good work, go. And the second argument he is making is, by getting into a manitva, you are actually trapping yourself into an opportunity where you will get upset. People are not going to sometimes give you what you are asking for. Why are you setting yourself into a situation where you are going to be in trouble? You have created it. Nobody else created. Manitva is my value. I will do good work. I want people to recognize it. If they don't recognize it, I will not get sleep. I will get very upset. I will find fault with all of you. These are all your own making. We say that is a very low level in which we don't even know how to handle ourselves. That's where it starts. That is manitva. Dambitva is even dangerous. Here, at least you had something and you wanted people to recognize it. Here, you want to be different from what you are. Dambachara.
Hypocrisy.
At least here, you had something. Your trouble is people did not recognize and acknowledge. Here, you don't even know anything. You want to pretend you know all Vedanta. Something like that. Right? Or, you want to be in a society trying to be a high, you don't even know where is your next meal. But you want to move in a high society and pretend to be your, so he says, false person. He says this is even more dangerous. It will lead to a lot of falsehood and complex living. He says simple living is different from a complex living. So that is Dambitva. Ahimsa we know, right? Kshantihi is a great idea. Kshantihi is a sense of accommodation, forbearance or accommodation. It's not tolerance. There's a difference between accommodating and tolerating. Tolerating means I don't like it, I'll put up with. That's the meaning of tolerance. This is nonsense, I'll be courteous enough to put up with. Then you have to use the word tolerance. Accommodation means whatever it is I will accept. They are two different things. So Swami Dayananda Saraswati went for a UN Peace Millennium Summit. So at the end of it, they developed a declaration in which the Christian popes and all of them said, we will tolerate Hindu religion. Swami Dayananda said, I won't sign. We don't want anybody. He asked, will you tolerate your wife? That means I can't put up with her, I am kind enough to put up with her. He said, don't tolerate, we don't want any tolerance. You wanted your tolerance. We want you to accommodate. You have your views, I have my views. That is called Kshantihi. They use the word tolerance. 9 months it was not signed. Lots of these are nothing. In fact, Rajiv Malhotra was behind this whole thing. Finally, they refused. They changed the word. They said, we would accommodate other views. Nobody wants you to tolerate views. So, Kshanti is not tolerance, it is accommodation. Arjavam. Arjavam is rich bhava. Rich bhava is straight. Rich is called straight. Arjavam is, you have to be very straight in your dealings. In thought, thought must align with deeds. Deeds must align with action. That is called rich bhava, arjavam. So these are all for, in fact, in my course on Bhagavad Gita here, management course, I emphasize only this shloka. Rest I say you can do later. These are all very important even for our world of Vyavahara. If you can't develop these, you can never be a very full-blown personality which is composed. You will become ayukta. You will be bundle of half conflicts, stress, and all that. Arjavam, acharya upasanam, shaucham. Cleanliness is not external cleanliness alone. It's not bahya shaucham, it's anta shaucham. Talks about all that. Stylium, it is steadfastness in what we do. Atma vinigraha. Take one slide and stop. So manitvam is actually an exaggerated self-respectfulness. You are creating problem. You do good job and go. Why are you setting such an expectation around? People have to say you have done a great job, you are a great proposal, you are in trouble. If you do more and more of that, you will be nothing but a bundle of stress. What jnanam, your mind is so distracted, where is this opportunity for knowledge? So he starts from that level. So exaggerated respectfulness or self-conceit, obsession with the amount of respect one receives from the another. And Dayananda Saraswati says, it arises out of being doubtful. See, I have to expect your acknowledgement. I am very doubtful of my own capabilities. If I don't have any doubts about my capabilities, why am I bothered whether you said thank you or... But you can see people are like that. They don't bother. They keep doing and going. Why? Because they don't want anybody to say you have done a great job. They know what they are doing and they keep going. He says only when you are in doubtful of your own capability, you want somebody to pat your back and now you say yes, I'm okay. So that is what he says. Inner sense of emptiness. He uses a word called inner sense of emptiness. When inner world is empty, you need a lot of manitva. Your inner world is full, you don't need manitva. You can graduate of manitva. He says, whatever you say, I will keep doing. Right? That's why, Gandhiji will, do the toilet cleaning, he will sweep the thing, he will do everything. He will also meet, Winston Churchill, everything. He will, because he doesn't need somebody to, he had entire thing inside. He was perfect example of Amanitva. Great people were like that. They were Amanitva personified. Then Dambitvam. So claiming to fame from pretended or fabricated accomplishments. So the accomplishments are not real. At least the accomplishments are real here. Here it is not real. They are all fabricated. Right? And ability is to commitment, falsehood and tension and so on. All these he talks about. Kshanti is acceptance or account. This is the greatest way to live life. Because we don't know what outside people will do. Why are you expecting everyone to behave the way that you will think differently from me? Why are you expecting everybody will do the way it aligns with me? This is our problem. We don't have Kshanti. If we develop Kshanti, that means we are taking all these peace of mind or all remote controls, we are taking all of them back to us. If you don't have Kshanti, you are given your peace of mind as a remote control to everyone in this room. They can upset you by the press of a button. Because you are not able to take what they say, you expect something, they do something else. Why are you doing all that? He is asking. He says, take what comes. Accommodate life as it comes. That develops Kshanti. It's very, very valuable to lead a peaceful life. We'll talk about spiritual life later. It's very, very useful in our day-to-day life. We must develop Amanitva, Adambitva, Kshanti, Arjava, Stairyam, Shaucham. Very, very important. That's why Krishna puts it as layer 1 in his 20 values. The others we will see next. Monday we don't have a class. I'm traveling. Anyway, we will also do it through our this thing. Week after next week. Yeah.
Going on and off.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Maybe that connection is not all right.
Not sure. Because I'm talking to Narayanan on the line here.
Oh,
He's watching there and it's